A short reflection on the topic of ambition, desire, and true love. Love. Probably the greatest and compelling emotion of all. But what is love? How does it come into being? And how must love be understood in order to truly blossom and unfold? A very complex subject. So let us take a look at the following concepts. The love for or of my family. The love for or of my wife or husband. The love of or for my dog and pet. The love of or for my country. The love for my property. The love for money. The love for God or of God. The love for my hobbies. The love for my job. The love for the attractive young neighbor. And so on. If we take these points into consideration and reflect on them, do our findings bring us any closer to understanding love? And if so, then what is love? There are many countless thoughts, theories, and approaches towards defining love. The physicist, for example, might try to explain love as the result of a neurochemical reaction inside the brain, or plenty of neurochemical reactions that happen inside the brain, whereas the religious cleric would search in God as the true origin of love. The psychologist, on the other hand, may argue that there are different forms of love, such as, for example, philia, the non-sexual love, or ludus, the playful affection, or the pragma, the mature love between partners, eros, the sexual desire, or philautia, the self-love. But what seems to come closest to the philosophical understanding of love may be the concept of agape, as it is given by the modern psychology. Agape describes love as a concept not knowing any exclusivity, a concept intended for all of humanity. Let us keep that thought in mind as we proceed, shall we? The speaker would like to ask you one more time, what is love? Is love equal to pleasure? Is love the expression of desire? Is love equal to the sexual appetite being fulfilled? Is it the pursuit of a desired end? Is love the identification with the own family? Is love the identification with a man or a woman? And is love a thing that can be cultivated? It seems as if most minds are indeed rather searching for pleasure than actually dwelling in love. Why is that? Well, all too often, love is defined by pleasure, the concept of love becomes the identity for pleasure, like a mask. Love is being replaced, or at least hidden in a sense. Let the speaker give you an example. Would you agree that love is, for example, identified as pleasure experienced by means of sex or sexuality? Yes? What is actually meant by that? Sex and sexuality are cultivated. No matter if we're looking at newspapers and magazines, movies, the internet, and so on, sex and sexuality are cultivated. That desire is cultivated. Ideals of beauty are cultivated. So actors are seen as loved. Singers are loved. Models are loved, we say. Those that are pretty, or wealthy, or famous, young, and so on, are considered as those that are loved. And with all of that comes desire, ambition, competition. Let us hold that thought for a while. Let us get back to sex and sexuality. What does it mean if someone talks about lovemaking? If sex equals lovemaking, doesn't the mind intrinsically identify love as equal to sex? The speaker must ask you again, isn't sex also connected to an ambitious mind? To the thinking of a competitive mind? To a mind that is full of desire? Take a look at the following statements. I want this man. I want this woman. He must be mine. She must be mine. You may not have him or her. He or she may not have him or her. Do you see where we are heading here? If not, would you agree that all the statements mentioned are solely based on ambition, competition, and the desire to get, to receive, and to own? Good. Then would you also agree that where there is ambition and competition, there is always conflict? Yes? Could we then also agree that where there is conflict, there is no love? For love stands in contradiction to conflict, or in contradiction to the desire to receive and to own and to conquer and to possess. Again, please meditate and hold your thoughts. Let us take some time to reflect on some more questions all together now. Is jealousy part of love, or even essential to love? Is comparison part of love, or even essential to love? Is the act of taking part of love? Is taking essential to love? Is the act of giving part of love, or even essential to love? What about judging? Is judging part of love, or even essential to love? Is the need for control part of love? Is controlling essential to love? Is love bound to conditions, such as, for example, beauty, wealth, the gender, to age, to status, and so on? And finally, is it not the competitive, ambitious mind filled with desire that dwells in the realm of jealousy, the realm of comparison? Isn't it guilty of the act of taking, the act of judging? Isn't it bound to the tradition of exerting control while asking for the fulfillment of its own requirements, conditions, wishes, and desires? Please meditate on these questions thoroughly before we continue. If you have meditated thoroughly, you probably have found countless misinterpretations of love, right? Maybe some of the discovered fallacies you might have come up with could be love as a form of desire. Again, the examples. I want her. I want him. He must be mine. She must be mine. Another fallacy could be love seen as a form of trading. Examples are, I took him or her for dinner. Why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't he like me? We had a great night. Why doesn't he kiss me? Why doesn't she kiss me? I paid the trip to Paris. Why didn't we end up in bed yet? And so on. A third kind of fallacy would be love as some form of comparison or competition. Examples. This one is too small, this one is too tall, this one is too fat, that one is too skinny, and so on. I will choose him or her because of being better than him or her. I choose him or her because he or she earns more money than him or her. Even the sentence, he or she has the right vibration, the right vibe and feeling. It's a comparison to the other that doesn't have the right vibe, the right vibrations. There are many more examples like that. And the longer you reflect and meditate on the subject, the more you observe, the more you will discover. What can we conclude from these findings? First of all, we have discovered that the competitive and ambitious mind prevents true love from unfolding, from growing, from chaperoning us on our path of life. We have also discovered that the competitive and ambitious mind has its origin in desire. Hence, in the pursuit of pleasure. Remember that pleasure is always deeply connected to desire, to the wish of possession. In order not to drift into a mind dictated by jealousy, comparison, selfishness, judgment, control, and so on, we must identify and transcend our desire, transcend the pursuit of pleasure. It is only when the mind is freed from its competitive and ambitious state that it can truly experience and resonate genuine love as it is. Because then it is not a mind drifting through a world of conflict. It is not a mind actually creating and perpetuating a world of conflict. For all forms of conflict prevent love from emerging and abiding.